My name's Nick Bassett. I'm Associate Director of Innovation at BBSRC. So I think working with the Innovation Caucus has been, firstly, really good fun. One of the things that I've really liked about it is the way that the whole thing has been approached as a team. It's not like a consultant where you pass it off and then you hear back 3 months later a report. That whole kind of fashioning the report, working through the report, really critically working through the outputs that you're trying to achieve, that's been really, really helpful and really enlightening. I think also the communication and the back and forth between the team at the caucus and indeed the team in BBSRC who were supporting has been really helpful. I think all of that then leads us to get to the right place where we've got a report that's valuable for us, that the caucus has been completely instrumental in pulling together, a set of results that we can then use for the future. So in this particular programme, there was 2 projects. There was one that Shira was leading, which was looking at more desk-based, interview-based, kind of understanding the bioscience innovation ecosystem. And I think the reflections that Shira came up with and the models that she used, for example, she used an iceberg that kind of talked to what you could see about the bioscience innovation system and everything that was below the water. That was a beautiful way of helping us to understand, first of all, the bits that we got and we understood why we understood them, but then the bits that made no sense, the dysfunctional parts are hidden below the water. So being able to deploy social science modelling on societal problems and questions that we're asking is incredibly helpful. So that's one element. The second element was out of the work that Fran did. Fran had a really, really innovative approach in terms of, first of all, identifying nearly 11,000 companies that had a bioscience kind of footmark, and then taking that footmark and applying social media kind of analysis to it was really helpful because it allowed us to see how the companies were perceived within their marketplace. Even though they were bioscience-based in a lot of cases, bioscience never featured in any of their social media because it's not something you would say to the public. And I think that as a bioscience community, it's really important that we understand that actually our translation activities, our innovation activities quite often are lost in the sense that they're integrated and they are part of a much wider picture. Working with the Innovation Caucus, I've actually worked with them once before as well. So this was my second time round, and it didn't disappoint. I think for me, as a bioscientist, it's really, really important for us to be able to understand more about how society perceives the technologies that we bring to bear, because quite rightly, anybody who is concerned about nature is concerned about using nature in the wrong way. And we don't take enough time to stop and think about that social acceptance before we engage in some of these programs. So for me, it hasn't changed what I think, but it's more reinforced the value of social science and what social science can bring to it. I think there's one other thing that I'll add from a commercial point of view, which is actually, if you don't spend the time right up front creating customer readiness for some of these big changes that are coming through the system, you will never have a market in which to sell them. And I think some of the work that we need to do now around grand challenges, net zero, sustainable food supplies, we need to address some of these questions and address the risk-reward balance between actually there is risk, these modifications may cause these issues, but the upside is that we would have a society that was able to feed itself. I'm not saying I fall on either side of that argument, I'm just giving you a kind of example of an informed discussion we need to have.